Hi everyone, I'm Rachel, and this is Musical Artists, a Conversation. On today's episode, we have 10 Month Summer joining us today. Welcome to the limelight. 10 Month Summer is an emo and shoegaze band from Chicago, Illinois, and today we'll be talking about how this group came to be, what their creative passions are as individuals and as a band, and about their upcoming releases, tours, and projects. Thank you guys for being here. How are you two doing?
Well,
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Trying my best.
Awesome. That's great to hear. I just wanted to ask you two if you guys could introduce yourselves with your names, your pronouns, and then also what you guys do in your band.
My name is Scumdrop. I use they, them pronouns, and I play bass, I sing, and sometimes I do like studio stuff, but usually just bass and sing.
I'm Nish. I use he, him. I sing as well, and I write the lyrics. And then not present with us are Charlie, Sam, and Luke, who all use he, him as well. Charlie plays rhythm, Sam plays lead, and Luke does the percussion and does a fair bit of our recording and studio stuff as well. But we are moving a bit away from that, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, in the episode.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, I wanted to ask you guys individually what your backgrounds and experiences are with music and performing. And if you guys want to get into your other bandmates that aren't here too, what their backgrounds are, that would be great too.
Yeah. You want to go first, Condra?
Sure. So my background, I've been doing bass for over 10 years, and I'm music in general longer than that. Music's always been a big part of my life, and this band is an extension of that truth, I think, among other musical projects. But for me, it's either music or sound, like live sound engineering. That's what I do for like work right now. I love doing anything that has any relation to sound or like music or just helping people kind of project their art in that way. So yeah, I also do some writing. So other than that.
Yeah, I've been writing for probably my whole life, which I think is the stronger half of my contribution to the band compared to my singing. I've done like choir and stuff growing up, but I've been a writer as my trade for quite a long time. I work in copy. I have a master's degree in poetry. Devoted a lot of time to the craft, and like Sumdrop said, like I feel like this band is a really good extension of the ways that we want to tell like our stories. There's a bit of a bias towards like my story since I'm writing the first person a lot, but I hope that on the upcoming EP and the future stuff we work on too, that there's a good flashlight being shined on a lot of different voices and experiences. I don't know the entire history of the rest of the band's musical background. Aside from Luke, like we were all strangers to each other when we started. I've known Luke for a long time. He was in the band with me prior, so I know his history. He studied production and audio engineering. His father was really into music, so like he always had like recording stuff in his house. And he likes a lot of like heavy drums, metal, prog rock, things like that. And Charlie and Sam, I mean, they're both very proficient in their instruments. They have experience with other bands. Um, and they all of us I think bring a really cool eclectic piece of ourselves to the band, which makes us hopefully different than a lot of other bands you hear out there.
Like you said, both about yourselves, like you guys have been doing music for a long time. You've had experiences with music prior to this band, along with your other bandmates. So how did you guys finally come to meet and create 10 Month Summer?
Well, I think the story is going to start with Luke and Nish, splitting off from their last band and then still wanting to create music and then just pitching the idea out, to the reaches of Reddit and other places to see who might catch the line. And I think it was Charlie first after that, and then Sam, and then me. But I think, no, I know there was another bassist before I joined, but they couldn't commit, and they were nice enough to give me a shot. So
And thank goodness. We love Scott. There was no bad blood there. They were just overextended, and it turned out to be a really, really happy accident that they could no longer be part of it before we like got rolling. Like I think we were like a band for like roughly like 2 or 3 weeks before we like picked up Scumdrop after. I think like once we like were starting to write, Scott was just like, oh, like you guys are like serious about this and like are going to be doing a lot of stuff, and they're where they just were in their life wasn't ready for that. But yeah, that Scumdrop kind of nailed it. I mean, yeah, Luke and I were in a band before. It was on its end, and we were like twiddling our thumbs for like 6 months, and we're like, you know what, like let's figure out a new project. I feel like it's fun that like I feel like, the way people are like, oh, like everyone meets on like Tinder and Bumble these days. I feel like that's like our version of like this band is like, yeah, we met each other on like Reddit and Facebook Messenger. But it's fun, and it works out that that these strangers are now best friends and family, and like we've toured, you know, part of the country together and learned secrets about each other and have done weird, strange things and eaten strange foods and all that together. So yeah, wouldn't trade it.
Becoming strangers to, as you just said, best friends who have done all this together, how did you guys determine what your overall aesthetic and style and your creative mission was going to be once you've decided on who was going to be in your band? And do you feel like that you guys are aligned both as artists and as people?
I think a good chunk of like who we are as people is connected in something similar, but I think we bring a lot of aesthetic that is unique on like a personal level. Uh, with regards to like morals and things like that, I think we're all pretty aligned on, bad or good or this and that, which is nice. There's not a lot of tension, and I think that tension is kind of where bands see like fractures in their foundation, so to speak. So I'm happy that it doesn't really exist, and we're all kind of on the same page. But like musically, we all have similar aspects of music that we like, but we also bring, like I said, personal uniqueness that kind of helps our sound, well, sound the way it does, a little more unique than what I was playing in like previous projects. So I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, same.
But
I mean, the biggest thing is that we don't want to like we take influence from a lot of stuff, but we don't like and comparison is cool, but we don't want to be a copy of anyone. And I think that like because the fun part of having five people with unique perspectives and unique experiences and unique tastes coming together is that like you do get this really weird blend. And our like steadfast rule is that like we're pretty prolific. Like we write a lot, like we jam a lot, and like we like create all these chunks. Like there's like maybe like 30 plus songs in like the Will Not Touch Again folder probably. But our like number one ethos is that like we have to like what we're playing, like all of us. Like if there's like a song when we're in the drafting process that someone's like really not fucking with, or oh sorry, I don't know if I was can I cuss on this? Okay, cool. If there's if, I've got a foul mouth. If there's like a song that one of us like isn't really down with, then like we don't really pursue it that far. Like every song that we play live or like record or bring, like it means that all five of us believe in that song. I think that's what makes it like you know, not get boring. It makes it exciting to write something new because we know there's something new we can chase each time too. Like we're not locked into writing, we have to write this kind of song in this key at this tempo. Like, our latest release is like a hardcore spoken word track on a split when what came before that was like, some more like shoegazy emo stuff, and what's coming next is going to be a bit akin to EP1, but it's going to have its own flavors and textures too. And so that keeps we're coming on 3 years of this band, like that keeps it not boring for sure. And I think like that too, the monotony kills it sometimes for a lot of people. They write the same 8 songs again and again and again, and hey, if that's what you want to do, that's awesome, but sometimes you need more than that.
Yeah, while Stephanie and I were obviously preparing for this interview, we saw that the message behind what you guys have released and what you have shared about your upcoming releases is very authentic and also liberating in the senses that you just described earlier. And so I wanted to ask, about the EP that you had just debuted in 2024, and then also some upcoming projects. But I wanted to ask what the inspiration and message was behind your debut EP, Fate Lines, and also why did you choose to release these songs when you did?
Yeah. I think we chose to release them when we did mainly because we finally had something. But I think like it came at a good time. The like lyrically for me, like that EP is like incompletely about my then girlfriend knowing she's going to be my fiance and now fiance. And just like I don't know, I grew up on a lot of pop punk and emo that like stands to be pretty misogynistic and like even in songs or like even in bands that have written good love songs, they also have the songs about like hey my ex, like like there's just like ways that like women specifically are put down a lot. And like even though I'm a brown man, like I'm a cis brown man, and so I've been afforded a lot of privileges to my gender and my socioeconomic status growing up. And so like I just like didn't want to lyrically write another EP about, oh, woe is me, my heart's been broken, about like some like old high school or college like flame or crush. Like that's like not like we don't need more of that. I think what we need more of is like celebratory stuff. And like there's not to say that there isn't like negative emotions or anxiety or tension in Fey Lines. I mean, like the first track is like about like when we broke up briefly, and like the anxieties about like how we come incomplete to relationships, and if we expect them to make us whole, we will get burned by that too because we just can't fix other people. So it's an EP about understanding like how to love someone that is flawed, and also how to love someone when you are flawed, and how do you like coexist through that and recognize like that's like what gets us through to the end, because there is no perfect person and there's no perfect way to love. But that's like that felt super real. And I think that a lot of people, like a lot of our listeners, I think are not, we don't capture a lot of those like teenage listeners who I think like, like a lot of other pop punk and emo might be hitting. Like we don't write a ton of like, basement party songs of like, cigarettes in the basement, beer in the backyard. Like that's like, I'm sure we will get to that at some point. Like I do love Frenchman Community, but like that wasn't on the mind when we were writing EP1. I think we were much focused on like like I was like 30 in my late 20s when I wrote that. Like I can't be, I don't know. Like I don't want to spend my time writing about that kind of stuff. I've done that. I've lived enough life to like, I've gone through that. So that's where I'm at on the words. But I think Scumdrop has like a lot of cool perspectives on the music. And I think they've added, I think some of the most unique parts of that record that like stick out to people. So I'm gonna pass the mic to them.
I mean, for like the music, it was very much just kind of, what can I fill in? Because some of the songs that were on that EP, if not most of them, were already like pre-established before I had joined. So I was kind of filling in um, the gaps, so to speak. And the more I listened to it later on, like months after we had already like played our first show, like every song, I began to like analyze the lyrics more and kind of get a better understanding of what was going on, and that kind of helped change the part that I initially wrote for at least four of those songs. Um, and now I can't speak for the other members musically and what came to their minds, but for me uh it was me trying to like get established in something that I was kind of unsure if I was, completely in. That's just how I am. I'm like nervous about new like groups and joining them at first, because shit happens. But like in this case, it was very receptive, and people and the members really appreciated what I could contribute. And I think that allowed me to be more open to like eclectic or weird kind of styles. Um, and I think the weirdness really comes out in EP2. Um,
Are you experimenting with not only different themes, but also different sounds and techniques with EP2 that you're currently working on?
yes, there's definitely more experimental, or at least more challenging parts going into the music side of things. Um, for the single that's coming out, Tomar Hashi, that one is musically very dense. Like there's a lot going on and there's a lot of sound, but it's in a way it's kind of organized chaos.
Hmm.
And I think it also is tying in with the kind of what the lyrics are going about. Like, it's kind of emulating the idea of, winter is ending and then the spring is beginning, right? Ish.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Nailed it.
uh, and in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, well, that time in spring is very crazy. Birds are looking for things for their nests. Squirrels are looking for food or whatever. There's just a lot going on. Roots are spreading, and it's crowded underneath. But still life is happening, and it's thriving as it's always been. Um, so I guess mainly musically, it's kind of like just nature starting anew, and it's kind of chaotic, but it
Yeah.
makes sense, and it's still beautiful.
That it is. I mean, like I want to posit too that like I cannot play any instruments, so like my engagement with like what the rest of the band writes like exists in a lot of like weird abstractions. And I think like the way that like I think what's really fun about what we write is that like there is like a huge focus on how are the words and melodies interacting with the instruments that are playing. Because I think all the parts they play also tell stories. Like if they had a language, like they would be it like everything would be braided together. I don't think they're telling different ideas. And then especially in the single that's coming out, um, like it's our shortest track we've I think ever written. Maybe it's the second shortest ever written, but it's the shortest track we'll have out so far. I think it's just like barely 2 minutes, maybe a bit over 2 minutes, but half of it doesn't even have words. It's a really instrumental instrumentation focused track. And so like when the lyrics cut out and like the instruments take the front stage, it feels like that moment when like you hear like the first real like spring thunderstorm, like it just explodes. And it's really exciting how big that song gets for how short of a space it takes, because that's what spring feels like. It's like you spent, especially in Chicago, you spent like 4 or 5 months in like the gray with the cold, with your shoulders bundled together. You feel like you're being suffocated by like your fucking jacket, and like you don't want to leave your house, you're freezing, and then like in like a week it just like flips, and there's green everywhere again, the birds are screaming all the time, like you hear like that first like I don't know if you were out like last weekend when it was 60 degrees, like the whole city is alive, right? It like it's quiet for so long and then boom, it's Chicago. And so like I think that this song really wants to tackle that idea, and like we want to spread it, and I think it does that. And I think uh, that's 95% because of what the instruments are doing in that track. And I'm just excited for people to get their ears on that one and the rest of the EP.
Cool. Yeah. As we're kind of wrapping up here near the end of the episode, I wanted to kind of talk about your most recent work that you put out and then also some upcoming stuff that you have. So I know you released another single, Every Day Feels Like 9/12, back in November.
Hmm.
And that was part of a kind of a three-way split that you had called Chicago Handshakes. And also I know that you're also going on tour next month called the Summer Gardens Tour. So those recent projects, I don't know if there's any, themes relating to what we already talked about or just kind of relating to each other, how you guys feel about those projects and kind of what's coming out in the future.
It was really fun to do the single for the split and kind of see everyone's creation, or at least kind of blending ideas together under like one umbrella, but have different minds concoct something towards the collective was very interesting. I really liked the the heaviness of it, honestly. I like the heavier stuff too. But I also like the message that was presented by all the other projects, or excuse me, the other bands for this project. Um, yeah.
Yeah, it was like nice to work with other people. I mean, again, like we're really focused on like the community at large, and um the Chicago music scene is like a really beautiful one. It's like very hard because like it's so big, but even in its bigness, like the different smaller sections and pockets like are all really tight knit. Like our guitarist just started a new band called Gauntlets that put on EP recently, and it's coming up in a hardcore band called Split Jaw. And like, when those other bands play, like we'll try our best to make those too, and like we'll see other people who are our friends also at the shows, and like I think that's what the split was about. First and foremost was like who in the scene do we have admiration and appreciation for? And then, to scope in onto like the song itself, like it is a complete, you know, war cry against the crimes that are happening in Palestine right now. And like the triggering of those same wounds and feelings of like being a Muslim raised set of immigrants in a post 9/11 world. Like I just remember what that felt like, and then hearing about that young boy was killed in Illinois because his neighbor it just has complete xenophobia and Islamophobia. It just like stuck with me a lot. And Sam came to me one day and was just like, "Hey, like this shit's like fucked up. Like, can we write something like that's like heavy and a ripper?" And I was like, yeah, I've been feeling that too, and I think we all are feeling it, and that's why none of us hesitated to write that song to play it to put it out. Like, it felt really important to like get that um to get that out there, and like it's not just it doesn't exist simply just to say, hey, we're political, like, or we're woke, or we're whatever. Like it's not about the label, it's about like the fact like this is like real. Like like when these violences happen and we perceive them through clicks and screens, and so it doesn't feel real, but it's like there are people that are like actually being affected by this. There are people that are the atrocities, and like it shouldn't take us having to say, hey, what if it was me, to make you feel like that. But sometimes that's like the wake up call someone needs because they're so privileged that they never have to experience that kind of strife, which is, happy for their safety, but then not use that to educate others or to make moves that bring that same awareness and yeah, community to other people that need it.
Yeah,
Well said.
definitely what we're doing here is also along the same lines of addressing everything that's kind of happening. And so I'm definitely
Yeah,
excited to see all of the projects that you guys got to share with us today. I wanted to ask, if there is anything else you guys wanted to shout out that's coming out in the future or anything else you'd like to share, before we kind of wrap up the end of the episode.
Yeah, you had mentioned also the tour or other future projects. I guess
Yeah.
the tour is something we could talk about.
yeah,
That's Yeah, what is it? It's the 9th to the 15th, correct?
yes, yeah.
Of March?
Yep.
Yeah.
Second week of March. We'll be in the East Coast for the first time. We're excited for that. Depending on when this comes out, I mean, Your Name Is My Ocean is EP2 coming from 10 Month Summer, coming out on We're Trying Records. We'll have some physicals probably online to either pre-order or buy, which will be like vinyl, CDs, and tapes. Um, we would love for you to be able to spend your money on stuff, but if you can't, you can always stream it. You can find it on YouTube. Times are tough, and we never expect, our support to come monetarily. We always just ask, like, take care of your people and talk about local bands because that's what makes them have success. It's like you telling your friends, "Hey, I heard this band, they're sick." We can post all the TikToks and reels we want, but like that's not really gonna mean much. Like people trust their communities, and so if you feel like what we've said here or what our songs have said are like important things to spread, then like that's awesome. And if not, hey, thanks for spending some time at least trying and checking us out. We're not everyone's cup of tea. Um, but we will still be here. We'll still making music. We're still going to keep trucking along, and so you're welcome to join the ride or watch from afar. Whatever your interaction is, we're grateful for it regardless.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, that's it for this episode. Thank you, 10 Month Summer, for being on the Limelight podcast. If you want to shout out your social media handles where we can find you, go ahead and you can do that.
Yeah, we are either 10 Month Summer or 10 Month Summer band on most platforms. Also want to shout out, like I said earlier, Gauntlets and Splitjaw, which are projects that are affiliated with members of this band as well. I'm also the like head of Sheer Force Records. So if you're a band that needs physical media like cassette tapes, we can help with that. And shout out to We're Trying Records for taking us on for EP2. But that's all I got for you. Thanks for having us on here. This was a pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank you so
awesome.
much.
Thank you guys. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you at the next one.